The Pokemon manga is a huge story that encompasses all current generations and has a few anime tie-ins. You've probably heard of it from the infamous image of Arbok being cut to pieces, but in reality it's way less edgy than what you'd expect. In this review series, I'll introduce you to my favorite arcs in the manga thus far, the Kalos and Alola arcs. This episode is on the Kalos arc, my personal favorite. Lock in cause we're jumping right in. X and Y are our lead characters. Instead of being Callum and Serena, they're named after the games, which is what the manga does. All you gotta know about X is that he won a big tournament, but he became depressed after being burnt out from fame. Y is a Sky Trainer girl with mommy issues. They're friends with Trevor, Shauna, and Tierno, all who are pretty much the same from the game. If this was a slice of life manga, they would be bland characters. Fortunately, this is Pokemon Adventures, which means they've gotta be in world-ending events. A normal day turns crazy when Xerneas and Yveltal attack, destroying pretty much everything in sight. The Team Flare scientist ladies Mabel and Aliana show up to steal X's Mega Ring while everyone is distracted, but he Mega Evolves his Kangaskhan for the first time and claps them. And already this event sets the tone for Mega Evolution. Instead of being an instant win button like in the games, it's treated here with respect. Later, after it all clears up, the gang search for a safe place to chill at for the night because they're obviously on a run. They decide a hotel is their best bet, which is a stupid decision. Bro, if I knew these people could be everywhere I went, I would not stay somewhere so predictable. Camping out in the forest is literally safer in this situation because of all the wild Pokemon. Sure enough, they find out they made a dumb choice as the receptionist shows she's a spy, all while the scientist ladies get round 2 with X. Mega Evolution fails him this time, so Froakie and Chespin save the day. The gang gets the hell out of there and finally decide to camp for the night instead. From there, they pick up good allies like Viola and Karina, all while dealing with things like mind control and way too many plot coincidences followed by characters being quickly introduced. I really gotta speak on how the mind control first showed up. Shauna was the one who got brainwashed by Aegislash and Honedge, but it was done in a way that I actually got mad when I first read it. This is how it went. Shauna got mad at Y, ran off, and thought she found her Furfrou that got launched back in the first chapter. Turns out it isn't hers, so she apologizes before being given the chance to trim the Furfrou with a sword. If she's trying to be a Furfrou groomer and learning about it, you'd think she would turn it down on sight, but no. She falls for a very clear trap set up by Team Flare. I know that in this part she's letting her emotions take the best of her, but someone who's on a run takes a huge blunder if they just let their guard down like that. Anyway, moving on, Lysandre shows up with his impeccable hairstyle. His plan to revive the ultimate weapon causes big battles to happen, like the one against Pangoro, Tyrant, and the Sky Trainers from Y's school. Throughout that, X adds a Charmander, Chespin, Electrike, Pinsir, and Gengar to his team. Y gets an Absol, Froakie, and an Eevee. Their teams are fully evolved by the start of the last battle, by the way. Some cool things that happen in the meantime include Blaine coming over from Kanto to Kalos because of Mewtwo, Diancie doing funny stuff, and Nurse Joy being tied up and gagged. Oops, that last part is a spoiler for what leads to the final battle. At some point, once Xerneas and Yveltal fall asleep, Essentia comes in to basically mess things up. Team Flare is essentially killing Xerneas, which makes it wake up and convince Y to catch it. Yes, Y is basically the owner of Xerneas now. That's crazy. Anyway, Essentia starts a game of Among Us and a wild goose chase ensues. Using her ball jacket technology, she steals Xerneas. Apparently this is a breaking point for Zygarde to step in, and he does so, but he gets caught so easily. After the ultimate weapon is activated for the first time and then stopped, Lysandre goes into hiding, but he's found pretty quickly. That's when Blaine finally shows up to stop him with Mewtwo. I forgot to mention this, but Blue's been here too. As the gang goes for the main ambush, the gym leaders and Elite Four break down the rest of Team Flare. Lysandre calls on Essentia to back him up with Zygarde, which finally means we're at the climax. Zygarde uses Land's Wrath, which pretty much knocks down most of the Keystone holders. Emma shows she's Essentia and goes back to the good side, but also gets knocked down by Lysandre, who takes Zygarde. He's able to activate the ultimate weapon again for the second time, so he makes an announcement.
I've come to make an announcement. Shadow the Hedgehog's out. He on my wife. That's right. He took his hedgehog fully out and he on my wife and he said his was this big. And I said that's disgusting. So I'm making a call out post on my twitter.com. Shadow the Hedgehog, you got a small. It's the size of this walnut except way smaller. And guess what? Here's what my dong looks like. That's right, baby. All points, no quills, no pillows. Look at that. It looks like 2 balls in a bong. He my wife. So guess what? I'm gonna the earth. That's right. This is what you get. My super laser. Except I'm not gonna on the earth. I'm gonna go higher. I'm the moon. How do you like that, Obama? I'm on the moon, you idiot. You have 23 hours before the droplets hit the earth. Now get out of my sight before I put you two.
In order to prevent more destruction, X knows he needs to draw out the battle to hopefully weaken Zygarde. So, with the Mega Stones from 4 other people, he Mega Evolves 5 Pokemon at once. Just look at these panels. Don't tell me that you can't see Aura, because this guy X is straight up cooking. It doesn't look like he was doing too much to Zygarde unless you're a die-hard Zygarde fan like me. You see, after a certain point, Zygarde began to absorb blobs that were coming in from everywhere. Does this sound familiar now? Bro was going to transform into complete form, but we don't get to see it. Xerneas and Yveltal, who were shivering in their boots as they realized they were about to get clapped by Zygarde, stop fighting just like that and revert to their dormant forms. Since balance is restored, Zygarde doesn't need to be there anymore. He stops absorbing blobs, instead opting to disperse into blobs. During this time, Lysandre was on top of Zygarde, and Zygarde is a pretty big guy. With nothing to go back down safely, he falls. Malva and Diantha, who were fighting, approach his location when Malva notices what's happening. She decides to fall with him and stops Diantha from saving him. They both fall to their death. Well, they don't actually die. You see, in the more widely available mini-volumes, which came first, this whole part actually gives the idea that they die upon impact because important info was omitted for some reason. In the fully complete volumes, which I'll get into after I finish here, they disappoint by confirming they don't die. Lysandre is pretty much disabled now, and Malva only got scratched. For the longest time ever, I thought they actually died until they came out with these new additions. Malva explains to Diantha that the reason she jumped is because if Lysandre failed, there was nothing for her to steal. Yes, this woman was going to take Lysandre's place, and was only pretending to sim for him. This is why you just don't trust women. If there was nothing for her to steal, she would have to face Diantha's pity, which was something she hated to think about, so she decided to end it. By the end of this, the gang goes back to normality. Since Team Flare hid everything from the public, no one knows what even happened. AZ causes a quick scare, but it was all deployed to destroy the ultimate weapon key, giving his Floette a reason to return to him. There's sadly no 3000 years mentioned. The main characters pretty much return to living their lives, and that's where the story ends. There are a few chapters after, but they're more of a nice filler to prevent an abrupt ending. We do get more connection to the lore in the last page, as it reveals X is from Hoenn and that the following arc, the Oras chapter, is actually a prequel to this. Now I can go back to the point I brought up before. When XY first released, it was rushed, just like Black and White was. There wasn't anything to dedicate complete volumes for the arc, so after the basic story wrapped up, it was published in mini volumes. This version of the story is pretty bad, I'll tell you that. However, it was all the readers had for a long time before the author and artist duo could come back to it. See, they knew they rushed the story, which meant there were gaps that needed to be filled. When they were able to come back, which was like 6 years after the story wrapped up, they resolved these plot holes. If you read the chunky volumes, you'll get the story as Arcee's intended. What I told you earlier about stuff that was missing kinda soured my experience with the arc, but also made me like it. For example, I preferred the assumption that Lysandre and Malva died compared to the confirmation that they didn't. However, I can appreciate both versions of the story. The basis was done through the mini volumes, while the full thing fleshed it out more and is the definitive version. I grew up watching the XY anime religiously, so you don't know how much I was hyped to read this manga. The first mini volume is the first manga that I ever read actually. The XY anime, my first interaction with Pokemon, made me fall in love with this franchise. The manga held it up so high too because I wasn't ready to leave Kalos and Mega Evolution behind. Not to mention my 2 most favorite Pokemon of all time come from this region, Greninja, my absolute favorite, and Zygarde, my second most favorite, showed what Pokemon is about to me. I can't praise this manga enough. If you like Kalos and Mega Evolution, give this a read. I obviously didn't give an hour-long recap of the story because you should experience it yourself, and hopefully you see why this is peak literature. I'd love to hear your opinions or experiences down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, my guys, and especially don't forget to save your game before closing. I'll see y'all in the next one.